Hey Cinders, welcome back to Chicken Cindy's. Today we're going to do our first legitimate upgrade to the Ozark Trail. Welcome to Chicken Cindy's, everybody. If this is your first time here, I'm Joshua. We kind of talk and do everything bike related on this channel. So going through the comments and stuff that I've done on this bike so far, I've done 2 or 3 videos I think so far. And I had a couple people tell me that I should upgrade the fork. A lot of people were telling me to get budget carbon forks and that kind of a thing. And then I found this bad boy on Amazon and decided this would be perfect for this bike. This will be the first time I've ever actually used this brand of fork. So we'll kind of see how it goes and what happens. But just kind of a real quick synopsis of what this video is going to be like. I'm going to try to just walk you through as basic and easily as I can with switching out a headset, which this bike can take a tapered fork, which this is a tapered fork, but you have to have a special headset that'll allow that. So I'm going to kind of go through that. I got a video right here that I did with my nephew 2 or 3 years ago with this exact same headset. Works absolutely perfect. I shouldn't say the exact same one, but the same branded one, if that makes sense. And we're going to see if this fork's any good or if it's actually just baloney, if you get what I'm saying. Not too terribly concerned with unboxing this. It's a headset. We'll go over it when I install it. This is kind of what I'm interested in unboxing for you. I've already opened it, looked at it. Box got a little smooshed from the delivery. Little water bottle, which is kind of nice. As you can see, it says baloney on it. So I guess you guys are probably picking up what brand this fork is. I've seen, get out of here, box, a lot of videos over these forks, the budget forks, the upgrades, the budget upgrades, that kind of a thing. This is a gravel-oriented one. As you can see, the stanchions are much shorter than most of the ones that you would see. I believe they're 80 millimeters. I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they're 80 millimeters. And I don't know, I thought the price was pretty good. One good/bad thing about this fork is you'll have to get the headset to get this to work on this gravel bike. But the issue is the stock wheel will not fit. This is a non-boost through axle. I believe it's 12, it's right there. So we got, it's 142, but it's a M12 by 100. I don't know if you can see that on the axle. So that's where this comes into play. So my bud Keo, picture here, go support Keo, absolutely terrific individual. Sent me a link to this. I don't remember the price off the top of my head. I think it was like 60 or 80 bucks. The fork was 130, 140-ish. So we're already looking just in a few upgrades at the price of the bike almost, because this is $250 brand new. So between tax for both of these, I mean, we're a little over 200 for sure. And I don't know. I just kind of want to have fun with this build. I'm not going to go super crazy expensive. I'm going to try to be more reasonable with upgrades, but at the same time, I'm still going to have fun with it and just kind of do what I want. Mixed reviews on this fork though. Not this specific one, but the baloney brand. I've heard some people absolutely think they're terrific and they're fine. I've heard some people say that they break. Just looking at it and just kind of the build quality and stuff, it seems fine to me. It's not like I'm going to be taking this gravel bike off of big drops and jumps and things like that. So we should be okay. And honestly, I think the decals are kind of slick looking. They're blacked out a little bit on this side, but then this side, you have like the silver baloney logo. It looks like you got your mount for your brake calipers, but the decals are pretty cool. I like those a lot. That one's blacked out, looks really nice, a little bit of silver. And then this side, the baloney, is actually silver and looks really cool. But no, I'm pretty excited to try this out and just see what oh, look at that. Whoa, we dropped it. That's interesting. Is that what it screws? Oh, be darn. Whoa. I have never seen one like that before. Check that. Anyone who's out of baloney, let me know if that's how that works. But yeah, so the axle goes through, but there's actually a nut, a little nut on this side with a tensioner on it. That's kind of cool. How interesting. So you'd get that down to torque specifics, I'd imagine, and then you would tighten it with the little, that's probably a 2.5, that's close, little millimeter. Kind of hard to see that little Allen keyhole. So, all right, let's start dismantling the fork. Taking the old one off, we're gonna weigh these two in comparison and see what the difference is as well. As we go through this build, swap, upgrade, I'm gonna kind of give you like the appropriate way or the way that I'd recommend to do it. And then I'm gonna kind of give people who don't have the appropriate tools the Sam Pilgrim way to do it in a sense, if you've never watched some of his stuff. But there is proper tools to be able to do this, but there are ways that you could do this entire thing without using the appropriate tools. I don't recommend doing it that way, but I'm gonna give you some different maybe tips and I guess tricks that you could do it if you don't have some of the tools that I'm gonna be using today, because some of them are a little expensive and this is a budget bike. But do keep in mind as I go over those different ways, I don't recommend those ways. It's just different ways that maybe I've done in the past or have heard people use and do, and it works for them. So when we go over those, just beware that it could potentially harm your bike more than it should. But I will share those different ways as we go through. So one of the first things you're gonna wanna do is take off your brake caliper. I ended up just taking the actual cable tie off the end of this and just pulled it through. I left this part on because that's not the adapter I'm gonna need for the type of fork I have. But yeah, that's the first thing you wanna do. Don't forget to do that. To begin with, you're gonna need a size 4 and 5 Allen key. The stem bolts on the sides are 4, the top cap is a 5. So we're gonna kinda just start doing this. It doesn't necessarily matter what way you do this. Just keep in mind, like what I'm doing, if you're taking that off first, if your fork, once you release these bolts, your fork can slide out. I do recommend removing your wheel real quick because that's just added weight you're not gonna need. So as you can see, I'm holding the bottom of the fork as I loosen these bolts because the weight of the fork will most likely slide out here in a minute. Hopefully not, since I'm holding on to it and I'll be able to catch it. But once you get this handlebar loosened a little bit, you should, there we go, boop. So that's why I have that towel up here. For those interested, just the style of ball bearings that are in this. So honestly, it's greased really well. I'm pretty impressed with that. I didn't expect it to be greased that well. So that's pretty nice. Same with the top bearing. It's actually greased pretty well as well. With a lot of these budget bikes, the greasing and stuff is pretty hit and miss, so that's actually pretty nice. I was pretty impressed with that. I didn't show this, which I should have, but this does come with the crown race and all that. Star nut as well. But since I got that new Risk headset to install, I'm not gonna need that. Okay, let's start weighing and see what weight-wise we're looking at. All right, bologna fork. 3.55 pounds. 56.7 ounces. So the number I'm gonna want to remember is 1.6 kilograms. For those, I meant to show that, not the ounces. 1.61. So, and it was 3.5 pounds. 3.15, so about a 0.4 weight difference, with actually exactly a 0.4 weight difference, with the bologna fork being just slightly heavier. So we got a total of 1.430 kilograms for the stock fork. And as mentioned, 3.15 pounds. So about half-pound difference. So we'll see if the half-pound difference is really worth it in the sense of having just a little bit of suspension for some of those bumps on the gravel roads. This is where the first questionable tool that you may or may not have will come into play. So this is what I have. I've had this for quite a few years, honestly. And it's just what I use to remove the actual headsets. So you basically put it in and hammer it out. Pretty straightforward. The Sam Pilgrim way is I've seen people just use screwdrivers for these. They'll put a flathead screwdriver in. I will show you. They will put a flathead screwdriver in at an angle and hammer it down a little bit on each side. Then they'll go up and do it. Don't recommend that. That is another way you could do it though. The way this one works is very straightforward. You slide it through whichever one you're gonna pounce out or hammer out. Those will spring in and then you just hammer it. And just like that, they pop out. Very easy. And the bigger difference is this is applying equal pressure around the cup as you're hammering it. So sadly with the screwdriver option, it can get twisted and torqued in there. So as mentioned, don't recommend it, but sadly, not all of us have these tools. Exact same thing again for the upper time. I try to go a little bit slower with this one. Goal. So putting in this headset is going to be pretty easy. Installing headsets really isn't that difficult. I'll start with a brand new base here in a second. What I mean by that is I'm gonna clean it really well with alcohol and stuff. I'm gonna re-grease the entire thing, and then we'll kind of just go over what I'm doing as I install it. This is the most important part of this headset. This is what's going to allow this to take a tapered, okay? I'll show you the measurements here in just a minute. Very nice sealed bearings. I believe these Risk headsets run like 20 bucks. It's really not that big of a price in my opinion. But they are two very important measurements you're gonna need to know for this to tell if it's going to work or not for your specific bike. The first important measurement you're gonna need is to make sure your headset is 44 top and bottom, okay? If your head tube, if your head tube is not 44 top and bottom, these will not work, okay? Some are a little bit smaller on the bottom, so if that is your case with your specific bike, you cannot use this adapter, okay? The second measurement you're going to need is to tell, if I can get it to work, there we go, how deep the bottom one is, okay? There's a specific length here. There's been a couple bikes that I've worked on where the depth was not enough. So this is right at 7.8. There's going to be a little indentation of a ring right here where the headset is basically going to stop, okay? So if you do not get this measurement to find out for sure if it can fit or not, you may not be able to use it, okay? All right, this one's 8.7. So since it is 8.7, we know that it will fit. If you're watching this video just to see or figure out if that Risk headset will work for your bike, those are the two measurements you're gonna need to check. So I would recommend you take apart your bike and see what's going on first before you do that. I already knew that this would fit, so that's why I did that beforehand and purchased it. So I've cleaned it. So now I'm going to apply just some basic Park Tool grease to it. But yeah, I highly recommend you grab a little tube of Park Tool grease if you work on bikes at all. It's just good to have. Here's the next tool that I'm going to use that you may or may not have, okay? I wish I could remember how much I paid for this. I've had it for a couple years, and I truly just do not remember. But this is basically my headset bearing press. Again, got it off of Amazon. I think it was like $25 or $30. I don't recall, as I've had it for just so long. But it has done me terrific over the years. Absolutely zero complaints over this press, and it works terrific for what I need it for. The way I have seen and watched and heard some people do this is actually with a like 2x4 or piece of wood, and they hold it in place and they'll hammer it in or tap it down. Typically they'll have their bike upside down when they're tapping in the bottom, and they'll have a ride set up when they're tapping in the top. So a hammer and a piece of wood, obviously the wood's not gonna really hurt the metal too much. So that's one way that I do recommend. As you can see, I'm just holding this bottom bolt, and once it bottoms out, you're done. Super straightforward. The bottom is installed. Now we will switch and do the top. I did not state this, but make sure you take the bearing out whenever you're installing these. You do not want to crush your bearing. That's my bad for not mentioning that. Make sure it's just all nice and, uh-oh. I might need to flip that. Exact same situation. As you go, just go nice and slow. When it bottoms out, stop. You're just trying to get all the sides of these cups flush. And the cups are installed. Add a little grease to the fork itself, because I'm gonna go ahead and put the crown race on. This is basically gonna be the fit to decide where to cut this. The crown races that the headset comes with are very cool. You have two different sizes. They slip into each other. So if you just wanted to do this upgrade because you're planning on getting a tapered fork later, you can still use this with your non-tapered fork. You just have to use both rings. I don't need that because this is a tapered fork. It has a little slit in it. It's hard to see, there you go. But that slit makes this super, super easy. You basically can just press it on, which is absolutely terrific in my opinion. So I've already greased that. We're gonna get the bearings and all that installed. We're basically gonna do a dry fit with all of the actual spacers that you want and that kind of thing. So whenever you're doing this is the part that can mess up your fork entirely. If you cut this too short, you're done for. You know, that kind of a situation. You can always take away more and then like add. So just keep that in mind while you're doing this part and make sure you get this as good as you can. As mentioned, this is gonna be a form of dry fit. The nice thing is these have little rubber seals. They're really hard to see, but there's like little O-rings. So whenever you get this all together, it actually kind of compression fits itself, so you shouldn't have to hold on to it, which makes it pretty stinking nice to do this whole part while you're trying to put on your spacers and stuff. I wouldn't necessarily trust it in the sense of be careful, but I'll show you here in a second that it's a pretty snug fit. So you wanna make sure it's nice and tight. But yeah, whenever you let go, it should be pretty okay. Just a heads up if you're by yourself. So for me, I really like the stock with the two spacers and then the stem itself. You're going to want some form of sharp poking prod tool to be able to mark this. Make sure this is all compressed down and snug the way it would be. So once you get it to that, you're basically marking right where the top is. And the thing to keep in mind is where this mark is not actually where you're gonna cut. You're gonna cut about 2 to 3 millimeters below it so you have space for it to actually compress together when you install the star nut and then tighten it all together. Look how nice this all just stayed together. It usually doesn't do that, but the bearing's still inside the top and bottom, so that's kind of slick. This is the part where I'm not gonna have a lot of good options for you to do cheaper styles of this, okay? This takes a hacksaw and a steady hand, okay? If you have some saw that'll cut through aluminum, you're good to go. But as mentioned, so you can see that mark that I made, hopefully you can see that, okay, you can see the shiny. So I have a little slit in this where I can install my fork, get it in there the right size, you loosen it a little bit. And whenever I can see that slit in that hole, I need to go a little further up. Like I said, 2 to 3 millimeters. Be careful when you're doing this. As you start to cut this, your fork's gonna kind of weigh down, so keep that in mind. One of the biggest things I recommend is whenever you're done, is try to tap it out to get all that extra the little dust out of that, because you don't want those going down into your stanchion. It will be a little hot after you're done cutting, so keep that in mind. Now what we need to do is we need to file this down because it's gonna have sharp edges. Also just saw this hanging. I forgot that this is what I used to use to cut my stair tubes. So you can get one of these pipe cutters as well. Works absolutely fine. The little file on the back is not super good in my opinion, so I recommend grabbing a much better file, such as the one I'm using here. But yeah, totally forgot that that's how I used to use it back in the day. So I'll just manually go through this and file the inside and the outside. After I do that, I check for any burrs or sharp edges. Once I make sure there's none of those, now we need to install the star nut. This is one of those things to install is kind of specific and hard, okay? I've seen people just hammer them in with the bolt on. I do have a special FSA tool to use. The reason why I really like this FSA tool is because it does the proper depth and it keeps it aligned. I used to have a little tool that basically looked just like this, and you held onto it and hammered in, but sometimes it'd be just a little cockeyed. With this, it slides in and on, and then you literally put it over the top of your fork, and then you hammer it down, and when it bottoms out, you're done. Now that I know that this tool is bottomed out, all I have to do is twist this out, and you will have a perfectly installed star nut. And while you're doing this, keep in mind you can see the scruffs and scrapes on the inside now. This can have some stuff fall out while you're doing this, so you may want to have a towel or something in there to catch those and go dump them out so again they don't get into the stanchions. So just kind of going over what we've done so far. We have sized this, we have installed the star nut, we have the actual headset cups installed as well. So really all we have to do now is grease the bearings and where they go, and then install it all together and we should be good to go. One of the things I do really like about this style of a headset as well is it's called a zero stack. What that means is there's really no spacer or riser on the top here. So it's just basically as flush as it can be. So that way you can kind of bling out your spacers if you want, or sometimes people like the bigger spacers on the top of the actual cup, but I really like the zero stack. So you can either get your bike as low or your handlebars as low as you want it, or you can really jack them up. It's kind of, your own discretion. I've taken the bearings out and greased them. So now we're just gonna slide it all together. We will do the 2 spacers that I'm going to use. And then I'm gonna get these cables all the right way now. And the way I cut this is whenever I get the stem on, it should be barely above it. I'm gonna hold the camera so you can see the handlebars fit exactly where I wanted it, which was just barely above where I cut. So now, whenever I put the top cap on and screw it down, there's room for it to actually compress and to make it fit good. When you go to put the top cap on, you're basically just trying to compress everything and make it snug. Do not over tighten that. You wanna make sure it spins pretty well freely and it feels good. You don't want drag or anything like that. So you could tighten that too much and actually destroy and break those bearings. So keep that in mind. Do not hammer fist that down. And the nice thing is, this top cap is actually a 4 millimeter. So now the bolts on the stem and the top cap are 4. So now you don't need a 5 as well. So that's kind of cool. All right, this might be a weird transitional point from what we were just doing with putting on the actual fork and the tapered styled headset, okay? This is the brake that actually, the caliper that actually comes stock on the Ozark trail. When I purchased this fork, I did not realize it was a flat mount styled brake. It is the attachment point it has. So this down here needs to be basically a different style of brake than this, okay? So what we had been waiting on to come in the mail for the last couple weeks is this. As you can see, it has the flat mount styled. I believe it's 60 millimeters. I'll put here what the actual spacing is to be able to get the correct one. Like $25, $30, came from China, ordered it on Amazon. It took about 2.5, 3 weeks to come in total, okay? It's got a 160 side, and it also has a 140. The rotor that are on this bike stock are 160. So, this will work. Something I want to show real quick about this little thing in comparison to this is pretty cool, and I didn't realize it when I purchased it. But, all right, whenever this actually actuates, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but you have that piston in there that moves. You have one piston. This other side is actually stationary. The way you would adjust that is you kind of screw it in and out with that. And as you screw that in and out, that's kind of how you adjust that side to get it to bite the way you want it and better, okay? This bad boy, which I did not realize when I purchased, is actually a dual action one. So they will both move. So both pistons actually move as you go to actuate it. So that's actually pretty nice. I think that's really cool. All right, so kind of a weird situation. I made a short kind of talking about it. The last couple weeks, I've just been enjoying my family. This is kind of a weird part, but just explaining why this is taking a while to get out. But waiting on this. My wife's getting ready to start a job and all that fun stuff, and she's been a stay-at-home the last 5 years. So just really been enjoying my time with my daughters and my wife because they start in about 2.5 weeks to where Piper's getting ready to go to school. Elsie's going to kindergarten full-time again. And my wife's going to be working. So I've just been kind of enjoying the summer with them for a little bit and took a little bit of a break. But videos will start coming again, okay? But yeah, let's go ahead and install this bad boy. Should be a very straightforward installation on this. You should just have to do the 2 screws and we should be done. So let's get to it. If you end up purchasing this fork, just keep in mind then you will need to buy a different style brake caliper. Maybe you have one already. So with that being said, we have the headset, we have the fork, and now we have this actual brake caliper. So to do this entire upgrade, I'll put all the values here for the prices of everything, and I'll have links to these in the description down below. I no longer have an affiliate link set up with Amazon, so it won't be affiliate links or anything like that. The only thing I have affiliate links for are bikes online, which you can buy parts from and full bikes and everything like that if you like polygons and things. So I'll put that down there in the bottom too to just a bike that I recommend if you're looking for a new nice mountain bike. But you can just scroll around from that link as well, and it'll actually still benefit me, which is pretty cool. So if you guys want to do that, by all means, I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, I think it's a little over 200 total, give or take. Might be a little more than that. But yeah, screw this bad boy on. I'm just going to kind of get it snug to where it can go back and forth still just a little bit, so that'll move around. Do this one a little looser so we can adjust it. Nice. Pretty straightforward. Let's loosen this. Actually, because that's really long as it is, we're going to need to, we're probably going to want to shorten. No, we won't. We can feed that up and leave that there. I'm going to probably trim that a little bit because it's a little frayed. Okay, let's, I'm just going to take a little bit here at the bottom off. Clip. That'll help me get this through easier and better. Feed that up. Sorry if my arm's in the way there. I'm really bad about that. I just kind of get into the mindset of doing things and I forget to get out of the way. I really like this, the way this is set up to accept cables is actually pretty good. Just slide that bad boy through. Nice. Yeah, you still got a little bit there sticking out the bottom. So I'll probably leave that alone until I get the actual wheel on and stuff for adjusting. But yeah, man, iZoom. That's a nice looking caliper, honestly. I'm pretty excited to get that going. One of my biggest complaints with the original brakes was just the actual, the grab factor of them. But I think it was more, I mean, I never set them up, so it was totally my fault. I think, because they would break fine. I just needed to adjust them, and I just never did, because I knew I was doing this, so I wasn't too concerned about it. We're gonna go ahead and call this video done. I'm pretty sure the footage of me trying to walk through this nice and slow for all of you guys is probably gonna take a little bit more, it's gonna be a little bit lengthier than I expect it to be, so I'm gonna go ahead and be done for that. So right now, this is pretty much done the way it needs to be, besides, of course, the wheel. So obviously, this will not work because this is the quick release, and that is a through axle. I kind of showed it a little bit ago, but the next video I'm gonna do is of setting this actual wheel up, because this will fit that. And I think it was like 60 bucks, give or take. And then let me find my other box. Here it is. The next week's video then will have this as well, which this is a nice little box that Tanis sent me. So Tanis Armor, they actually will send me stuff every now and then, which is really cool of them, and I super appreciate the love for the channel. So I'm gonna do an installation for these, because if I'm gonna be switching tires off and stuff, I might as well install these. And I'm not 100% sure what's in this box. So we'll do an unboxing for this in the next video, and we'll get the rear wheel off as well, and get the Tanis put in this, and we'll get the Tanis put in the front wheel, and we should be good to go. So, let me know if you end up deciding to snag this. Honestly, in the grand scheme of things, originally, if I would have paid more attention, which I'm really bad about because I'm a male and I just get excited and buy things, after having to buy the flat mount brake as well, so this fork ended up being just a little bit more than I expected it to be, in the sense of getting all the pieces and parts that I needed. So just to kind of walk through all of them just one more time, all this up top is stock still. So we needed the Risk headset, we needed the fork, we needed the actual brake caliper, because it has to be the flat mount caliper style, and then we also needed the wheel. So there were 4 things we needed to be able to do this, but I feel like I did all of them still very budget friendly. Now, all those upgrades are gonna be close to the actual price of this bicycle, so now we're already up to about $500. And I mean, you know, that's where you get into the questionable territory of, are upgrades for this bike really worth it? I personally, I don't wanna sound harsh, but I think no. But saying that doesn't mean you can't do that, because I'm obviously doing it because I enjoy doing this kind of stuff, and it's fun for me, and hopefully you guys will learn something. And you know, even if you decide not to do the baloney fork, you can get a nice carbon fork, or even just a cheaper aluminum fork as well to save some weight, where the original wheel and actual brake mount will work still, so you can just throw those on and be good. I actually think I have one that would work. Yeah, it's in this box. That's my, I think it's a Shirley, the fork is, and it was like 60, 50 bucks. And I mean, you could swap that out. And I think that one actually is non-tapered though, so you could find a tapered one and do the upgrades and everything that you want to do, because this will take a tapered fork, as you can see. But other than that, if there was a step that I didn't do, or a step that I missed, or something that wasn't clear to you, please put them down in the comments, so that way I can kind of help and explain what I did and why I did it. But other than that, thank you all so very much, and I appreciate you all for tuning in. Until next time, take care.